Alright guys, welcome to this editing tutorial for Photoshop negatives. Now, as you can see, we do have a negative here. This is, as I said, Audrey. I told you guys that when we were developing the film. Now I know what you are going to say. This is an obvious negative photo. I shot it in RAW, and it is ISO 400, 24mm, f2.8, and 1/30th of a second. Okay, so when you drop in your photo into Photoshop for the first time, what's going to happen is you're going to get your raw image. The reason why I want you guys to try to shoot in RAW is because you're going to get more detail out of your photos, 1, and 2, you're going to get less film grain. This is shot from the board that I showed you in the last video, from the light table, and this is how it turned out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and hit the crop and rotate button. And we're going to basically just crop out everything that we don't want. By pulling these lines in, we're going to make it a little more straight and crop in a little bit more right there, and that top bit doesn't need to be there, and that bottom bit can go bye-bye. Alright, so that is how you crop your photos. Now you have a bunch of other stuff here, black and white mixer and all that. You don't really need that right now because we're not able to convert it from, or invert it from here anyways. So we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to open the image. There we go. Now our image is open. You can see that there's a little bit of a line here. So what I'll do is I'll go here to the secondary cropping button here, and we will pull this in just slightly and fix that. Perfect. And so what we want to do is we have these guys here, which are our layers panel, to make a copy of this, so that way if we do decide to mess with it anymore, we don't screw it up. We're gonna hit Command or Control J, which is going to make a second layer. See, and then you can actually get rid of that one because I made 2. And then we're going to work with this layer here and not the background layer. So layer 1 is our first actual layer. This is so we don't screw up the one that's on the bottom, only the one that's on top. So if we screw it up, we can always get rid of it and it doesn't mess with the actual photo original. So that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to hit Command or Control I, which is invert, and boom, there you go. Your black and white is now actual black and white instead of the negative black and white. So we went from this kind of black and white, which is a negative, to a positive. What can we do from here? Tons of stuff. If you want to make another layer, go ahead and do that. That would be Controller Command J. Since we're working with black and white, you really can't do like a whole bunch of like fixing things. You can work on levels, you could work on curves, you can work on brightness and contrast, but again, and exposure, you're working with the black and white, so there's really no colors to boost or anything like that unless you decide to paint color into this and make it look like a retro old school painted like advert, but other than that, you really don't need to mess with them. I usually use curves, and you can change things like make it darker or lighter in different ways. Let's see, that one just messes with a whole bunch of stuff. And then you have different clarity levels. And personally, this is just the art of the thing. I wouldn't totally mess with this as much as I'm doing right now, because you will end up screwing up whatever it is that you're doing. But I mean, if you're just going to play around with it and this isn't something that you are trying to do professionally, then just have fun with it and just see what they do. You don't really have to mess with it all that much. You can do, again, you can do curves, you can do, let's see, gradient maps I don't really use. I don't like patterns. You can do levels. Levels and curves are almost the same thing, except for it just does it differently. I bring up that just like that to make it where you can see it a little bit better. And you know, there are other ones where you can bring up the shadows, bring down the shadows, bring up the contrast and bring down the contrast. Again, don't invert it again because we already just inverted it, so there's no point in that. You can always go up here to your different functions and do different layer files. You can do different filters. You can do different blurs, light flares, lens blurs, motion blurs, sharp blur, smart blur is off on this one, surface blur, 3Ds I wouldn't really mess with, but there's just a bunch of options that you can do with the image that will make it different. Now I kind of like the way that it looks already. It does, again, this is a film, so from film, so you're not going to get that perfect crisp image like you would with a new digital camera, but I think that's the wonderful thing about film, is that you're getting that old school vibe. Later on I might do a painting where I do some light skin painting and color painting over this image, just to kind of give it that old Coca-Cola, Pepsi, that old cola display vintage look that you get when things are hand painted. But that's for another video. So if you guys like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you don't like this video, give it a thumbs down. Go and follow this model on Instagram. The name of her account will be right down here somewhere and in the description. So go and follow them on Instagram. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it is Portraits by Lee, or Lee Photographies for my plants and animal stuff. Portraits by Lee for, obviously, portraits. So thank you guys again for coming in, and we will see you later. Peace.